I believe this is one of the consequences of the blockade. Some of the mullahs or IRGC, they're having their fight, they're having to strike, they're having to show force, because if they don't show force, they have internal trouble. So, consequences of the blockade.
It's actually been about 2 months since the blockade went into effect. And so I wanted to ask, how much pressure is it exerting on the IRGC at this point, and how has that been changing? I want to note this isn't a military question. I think we can assume that the blockade is airtight and that the shadow fleet is being interdicted. But if you remember back in May, there was a story about the potential of the storage filling, creating a crisis scenario where wells needed to be shut and that those wells could be permanently damaged. And it looks like that has not occurred yet, and it may not occur based on some of the research I've been doing. In addition, if you remember, there was an oil spill off the coast of Karg Island that we thought might be related to venting oil that couldn't be stored. And it looks like that was also a one off related to a ship that needed to, for some reason, get rid of its contaminated ballast. I am really interested to know what people think about the economic consequences of the blockade and whether pressure on the IRGC is increasing or has leveled off, and how that might be affecting the way they're operating now in terms of strikes, etc. So
So let me actually read this to you because it's devastating. I know that they used to have 5 million barrels a day of export. And I've set not export, like just, yeah, export of crude oil. And now it's at 800,000, which is like, and this is, I think, like close to nothing is going through the Strait of Hormuz. Like they have found other ways, but it's still devastating. Let me see what the numbers look like. So, zero shipments, according to UANI data, oil exports dropped catastrophically, showing zero crude shipments passing the blockade. And guys, remember, but passing the blockade doesn't mean that they get to go through the Strait of Hormuz, because sometimes they get to go through the Strait of Hormuz and they hunt them down after. So even if they pass it, it doesn't mean that now they're free to go to sell to China. So this marks a staggering 90% decline in volume compared to the previous month. So this is the blockade targets the Strait of, yeah, I know, but this is the financially this has devastated the that's 90% of Iran's 109 billion annual trade. So, analysts from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies (FDD) estimates the blockade is inflicting 435 million in daily economic damage, or roughly $13 billion per month. This is not something the Islamic Republic can afford. So it is devastating them. This is horrible. We're gonna have to see what does that translate into. I heard a lot of people suggest that a lot of this damage will show itself not for a while, but then all of a sudden immediately. So it's very slowly, things are slowly getting worse, and then immediately everything is going to collapse. So that's what I heard some experts, economists saying. If this continues at some point, you're not going to see it. You're seeing a slow crash, but then all of a sudden it's going to speed up if it continues. But does that even answer your question?
let me put it this way: since Petito's here, I'd be interested to hear what he thinks, whether there's any evidence of the effects of this, and if he thinks that if the Mossad chief, if he's heard the Mossad chief's statement about the lifetime of the IRGC, and what his personal opinion is about whether the blockade alone might be enough to cause some kind of a let's say black swan event, as you're describing.
I think, yes, I get you. Actually, I've sent a comment and the comment hasn't been sent in the chat. I think this Black Swan event that you're referring is already happening. And I think for finishing the job of the IRGC, especially IRGC militia, it's enough because, as we all know, the IRGC is not legal or a legitimate group. IRGC is just some mercenaries with some low-grade commanders right now, and their lifeline depends on the cash flow to their system, because right now they are poorly managed and they are so poorly planned for future. Actually, they don't have even a right plan and a focused plan between them for just next 24 hours. What we are witnessing right now is a mass defection among this mid-level IRGC commander that remaining in the regime, because right now some say they're going to shoot a missile or they're going to attack the region and Israel, but some others that can understand this attack is going to finish them. Some of them are fighting with each other, and some of the wise ones trying to defect. And we actually can see some people, some mid-level or high-level people in the regime trying to show the people of Iran they are going to be with people because they need people's trust, because they want to leave afterwards, and they know the regime is finishing. But in this context, we don't just need to end IRGC. We just, because IRGC it's the main enemy of the people, but we are facing with something more than IRGC. As you all know, IRGC is just a puppet masters behind the scenes. I think this is a phase, and after this phase and this weakening phase, we are going to go through the next phase and see what's going to happen.
So there's definitely some effects there.
Yes, definitely. And as we talked in last session, we already know that people are living in this bad economic situation and they're get used to it. But the IRGC and their families and their militias and their mercenaries, if they don't, they living day to day through the payments and payments. So if we cut this line, uh, mass defection is going to happen, as we already seen it. But we are facing with this castle of lies and house of cards. Actually, they are not going to project the real image. So I think the next phase and the more efficient phase is showing what's beneath of this house of cards and finish them.
Wait, can I give you some information? Yeah, do you want some information regarding how this is, if the signs of how this is hurting the IRGC directly, not just like how that looks in practice on the ground? Is that
Absolutely.
interesting to you?
Yep,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay. So the most direct sign in is financial distress on the ground is that recent intelligence and regional reports indicate the IRGC is genuinely running out of cash to pay basic salaries to its operational forces and foreign fighters in places like Syria and Lebanon. By the way, I saw some videos from some people in Hezbollah complaining that they're not getting paid from the IRGC. So this is where the IRGC Quds Force heavily bankrolls local fighters. Payments have become irregular, downscaled or delayed. And by the way, this is not just a revenue problem, this is also a liquidity problem. So keep that in mind as well. And then we have a desperate turn on crypto smuggling because traditional banking and physical cash transfers have been choked off by the blockade. And also, not just the blockade, it's also because of the UAE now turning against Islamic Republic. Even the revenue that they are making is really hard to get access to it because of a lot of the financial institutions that they had to transfer all of this used to go through the UAE. And now they don't have that. And they're desperately trying to find other avenues to get that money. So the IRGC has desperately pivoted to digital assets. So on May 27th and June 2nd, the US Treasury heavily sanctions major Iranian digital asset exchanges like Nobitex and Bitpin. These platforms were actively being used by the IRGC to move hundreds of millions of dollars in stable coins, specifically to pop up the falling rial and funnel money to proxies like Hezbollah and the Houthis. One reason why the Houthis are not very active right now is because, this is my guess, is because they're not getting paid by the Islamic Republic, I think. So the freeze on nearly $500 million in cryptocurrency has severed one of the IRGC's last reliable digital pipelines on its networks. And then we have, on May 11th, 2026, the U.S. Financial Crime Enforcement Network, I think it's FinCEN, FINCEN is the abbreviation, issued an urgent red flag alert to global banks. The report detailed how the IRGC is desperately trying to fund its weapons program and terrorist proxies by abusing shadow banking networks in Hong Kong and the UAE. The fact that the IRGC is using highly complex, multi-layered shell companies just to move minor sums shows that their standard direct lines of funding proxies are broken, because this is very little money. These millions of dollars are very little money for for what the IRGC used to have. So creating these multi-layered financial systems that they have for just very little cash must show that they are really running out of money. And then we also have shifting proxy behavior, so weapons over cash. So while groups like the Houthis in Yemen remain highly active in the Red Sea maritime crisis, their reliance has structurally shifted. Experts note that because Iran cannot easily send liquid cash through the blockade, oh, this is what I was saying before reading this. It is primarily sending smuggled, oh, not something else. It is primarily sending smuggled weapons components and technical expertise rather than monetary payments. The proxies are increasingly forced to find local alternative means of revenue, such as extortion, smuggling, and local taxation to stay financially afloat. So, yeah, the Islamic Republic, we have no money for you. How about some advice? Do you want some advice? Do you accept
Consult.
advice as a consulting as a form of payment? So, Ian, does that answer your question?
Sure.
My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.